The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, or opinions of the listener. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Chat, GPTs, and AI technologies were not used or harmed in the creation of this podcast. This podcast is 100% human-made by me, your host, Melanie. Hi, hello. And this is Under the Moon Paranormal Presents Ohio Legends. This episode is brought to you by the Blue Moon. On May 31st, 2026, it's the smallest moon of the year, and it's going to be in Sagittarius, so themes of wisdom and higher purpose, performing rituals, stargazing, writing in journals, that kind of stuff kind of helps you manifest what you want. This is a rare lunar event and uniquely opportunity for sky watchers to witness the second full moon in a month, so that will not occur again until December 2028. Emotional breakthroughs and true revelations, releasing toxic cycles and letting go of outdated habits or even relationships, sudden clarity and life-changing decisions. It may happen quickly and suddenly and needs action now, urging for action and transformation. Career, financial, and relational impact, often revealing what needs closure or realignment. So this blue moon is a symbol of transformation and pivotal growth. It intensified energy can trigger emotional insights, decisive shifts, and new beginnings for everyone. With the Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius feeling strong influence, this is an auspicious moment for reflection, release, and embracing change to begin a new chapter in life. This month's Ohio Strange News article is an anniversary to something strange that happened in Ohio. So on May 31st, 2003, enough complaints in Zanesville, Ohio, got State Route 666 changed to a different route number. And the hell is real sign did not help the Karens at all. Okay, so lifelong resident Paula Sowers wrote to NBC recommending that State Route 666 name be changed. Sowers became particularly irritated with the sign when construction made it a detour number on State Route 60. So it says, quote, from this Paula lady, why oh why is it my hometown Zanesville, Ohio renaming State Route 666? Wrote Sowers, they advised it as a detour on State Route 60. It needs to be renamed and assigned to different numbers. She demanded it, and it happened. So, often considered an evil number due to its reference to the mark of the beast, in the Bible's book of Revelation, 666 has become a symbol of the Antichrist, according to Bible.com. Revelations 13:18 states, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 6. So, all these comments are my opinion, Sauer says. I don't know what the intentions of the state of Ohio are. I only know that these signs are posted with these numbers, and these numbers make me uncomfortable. So it made her uncomfortable enough that Chaz Cosgrove, the public information officer for the Ohio Department of Transportation District 5, he looked into the matter and explained why modifying the road's assigned number is difficult, but not impossible. So short answer, yes, they changed the name to 665 in 2003. And that's your strange news article for this month. So this month's episode is going to be about Madison Seminary in Madison, Ohio. So established in 1847 in Madison, Ohio, originally serving as a high school and college to both men and women, the first building was a wooden frame structure, which was later expanded with the brick building in 1859 to accommodate the growing number of students, reaching up to 150 at its peak. The seminary provided education for both male and female students and was known for its commitment to quality education during its early years. By the late 1800s, the demand for private education declined due to increasing availability of public schooling. In 1891, the seminary was purchased by the Ohio Women's Relief Corps, and an organization dedicated to supporting families of the Civil War veterans. The facility was renamed Madison Home and transformed into a relief home for widows, orphans, and nurses associated with the Civil War. The building underwent renovations for better serve its new purpose, including an additional new wing. So the Madison Home continued to operate as a relief facility well into the 20th century, even as the Social Security and veterans benefits became more established. In 1904, the property was donated to the Ohio state of Ohio, and it was officially named the home of Ohio's soldiers, sailors, Marines, the wives, the mothers, the widows, and the Army nurses. The seminary remained in use until the 1970s, after which it fell into disrepair. In 1993, the property was sold to private ownership and has since been preserved as a historic site. It is now recognized in the National Register of Historical Places and has gained notoriety as one of Ohio's most haunted locations, attracting paranormal investigators and tourists alike. Make sure you check out their Facebook page for tours and more information. So today, the Madison Seminary is known for its ghost tours and paranormal investigations, with many visitors reporting eerie experiences and sightings of apparitions believed to be former residents, including Civil War widows. The building's long history and numerous transformations contribute to its reputation as a site of significant paranormal activity. Madison Seminary stands as a testament to Ohio's educational and history, reflecting changing needs of its common community over the years, while also captivating those interested in the supernatural. So, before we get into the haunted legends, let's talk about one of its residents that's pretty famous. So, one of Madison Home's most notable residents was Elizabeth Stiles. Born and raised in East Ashtabula, she worked as a teacher and seamstress in Chicago for 9 years before meeting and marrying Jacob Stiles. The couple moved to Kansas in the late 1850s, where Elizabeth continued to work as a teacher and was not shy about sharing her pro-union views in politically divided new state. One evening, a group of strangers visited their house and killed Jacob on the spot. The men turned out to be Quantrill's Raiders, pro-Confederate guerrillas that included Jesse and Frank James. Several months later, Elizabeth was recruited by Abraham Lincoln himself to spy for the North. She sometimes disguised herself as a Southern grandmother looking for the wounded father of her granddaughter. Other times worked as a nurse in Confederate hospitals. Once arrested in Jefferson City, Missouri, under suspicion of being a Union spy, by the time the interrogation was over, she had convinced the Confederate officer that she was actually a rebel spy before releasing her, and gave her a horse and gave her a better gun. Elizabeth's work as a spy ended in 1864 when her identity became known. She was cared for by her son until 1895 when she moved into Madison Home, where she lived and died there in 1898. By 1904, the Women's Relief Corps could no longer afford to operate the building and donated it to the state of Ohio. So that's the story of Elizabeth Stiles, who is said to still haunt the place to this day. So here's some frequently asked questions about Madison Seminary. Is Madison Seminary open for tours? Yes, it's offered guided ghost tours and overnight stays for paranormal investigators. So the history of the building, which we said earlier, started in 1847. What kind of paranormal activity has been reported? Disembodied voices, shadow figures, and unexplained noises are frequently reported by the visitors. Okay, so in June of 1962, the state of Ohio Mental Hygiene and Corrections took over the ownership of the building and evicted the widows that still lived in the property. So this was, in 1962. So the women that they moved out were the widows that were still there. And then they moved in inmates that needed mental help, basically women inmates from Ohio State Reformatory and other places, and it became the Mental Hygiene and Corrections, and was also used as, the first floor was used as the local police station. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, so one of the most common encountered spirits is the affectionate spirit referred to as Sarah, the spirit of a young former resident of the building, though some have said that she may have been an elderly woman with dementia that has like the heart of a child. So her room you often hear childlike voices in her room, a youthful presence, and especially true when you leave her a gift. So there's like a little vanity set up in there, and it's filled with all kinds of little trinkets that people leave for Sarah. As we mentioned, Elizabeth Stiles, she is said to haunt the cottage section of the complex and often seen as a smoky white apparition in a long 1800-era dress. So mediums have conversed with Elizabeth's spirit while investigating the cottage area. Investigators have also reported sightings of a ghostly young boy in the cottage area referred to as Stephen, The little boy's origin and true identity remains unknown, but he, like Elizabeth, is often seen as a shadowy, white, lingering apparition. But Stephen and Elizabeth are just two of the many reported shadow figures and apparitions around Madison Seminary. Encounters with dark figures are common throughout the seminary complex. Some investigators even claim to see shadowy apparitions peeking out of doorways on the 3rd floor. Others have reported figures drifting listlessly around the hallway corners. Audible, disembodied voices are some of the most long-standing claims around Madison Seminary. Even back in its functional days, employees and night shift guards reported hearing voices at strange times when they were all alone. Others even claimed to hear whole conversation amongst invisible entities in the old office spaces. For many years, people have also claimed to feel a pressure or a strange sense of dread inside the building. Voices are still regularly encountered at the seminary today, accompanied by other reported auditory phenomena. Investigators have claimed to hear the sounds of doors slamming and other explained bangs, while others have also said to hear the sounds of rattling chains in the building. Over the years, paranormal investigators have reported collecting countless EVP recordings of these voices after investigating the building. So a few ghost stories for Madison Seminary. Guests consistently report the most chilling experience at Madison Seminary, looking into mirrors or reflective surfaces and seeing a face that isn't their own staring back at them. These aren't just fleeting glimpses or tricks of light, but clear, detailed reflections of other people, often dressed in period clothing from the 1800s. Some visitors describe seeing a young woman in a white dress, while others report an elderly man with stern features. Photography enthusiasts who come to visit this location capture unexplained anomalies in their camera screen when reviewing shots are taken near reflective surfaces. Skeptics suggest it might be pareidolia or light playing tricks, but even some seasoned paranormal investigators admit they can't fully explain what happens here. So whether supernatural or psychological, the mirror phenomenon remains Madison Seminary's most famous and disturbing characteristic. So, Madison Seminary, its story began when it opened at Lake Erie Female Seminary, so a boarding school for young, rich women. The imposing structure welcomed daughters of wealthy families across the region, and they studied how to be better women, like a charm school. When the Civil War erupted, the building transformed into a makeshift hospital where wounded soldiers received treatment. Imagine the halls, once filled with laughter and learning, and suddenly echoed with groans and pain of injured men. That would be a little disturbing. Many soldiers never left, succumbing to their wounds within these walls, making this period the beginning of the building's association with death and suffering. So, let's talk about the White Lady. She's probably the most talked about spirit here at Madison Seminary. Among many spirits that said to inhabit this place, none is more frequently encountered than the White Lady. Local legend speaks of a young woman who either died during childbirth or lost her baby within the building's walls during its hospital days, or it might be buried underground there inside the building. Witnesses described her as appearing sorrowful, wearing a flowing white gown that seemed to move when there's no breeze. She's most often spotted on the 2nd floor, drifting through what was once a dormitory room. Some visitors reported hearing the sound of a woman weeping softly in empty spaces. Others described feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness wash over them in certain areas of the building. A few brave souls claimed that she's reached out as if trying to communicate with something important. Paranormal teams have recorded unusual electromagnetics, field spikes, and temperature drops in areas where the White Lady appears most frequently. While her story cannot be verified through historical records, the consistency of sightings across decades suggests something profound happened here. Whether you encounter her or not, her presence has become inseparable from Madison Seminary's haunted reputation, drawing curious visitors from states away. You'll probably see her on other YouTubers' videos. So check that out, because her story is very interesting. Whether it really happened or not, we don't know. Okay, so that's the hauntings of a few of the ghosts. So the basement. Not everybody goes down to the basement, but when you do, you feel being watched by unseen eyes and experiencing sudden and unexplainable terror that sends them scrambling back upstairs. Some describe shadow figures that seem more solid than typical shadows, moving independently and sometimes blocking doorways. Speaking of shadow people, stay tuned to the end of this episode to see actual shadow figures that I caught at Waverly Hills Sanitarium. Woohoo! It's spooky! So, speaking of shadow people, electronic equipment frequently malfunctions in the basement with fully charged batteries, draining in minutes and cameras refusing to function properly. Paranormal investigators theorize the basement might have served as a morgue during its hospital phase, which would explain the oppressive atmosphere. I've been to a body shoot at Waverly Hills, and it's definitely got an oppressive atmosphere down in the body shoot because of the sense of death, you know? Others believe negative energy from the building's later years as a mental health facility concentrated in this lowest level. Could possibly be. Whatever the case, the basement represents Madison Seminary's darkest corners, where even skeptics admit feeling something isn't quite right down there. Most exploration groups now avoid it altogether after particularly frightening encounters. Walking through Madison Seminary alone is challenging enough, but hearing footsteps behind you when you're certain nobody else is there takes a different experience to another level entirely. Visitors regularly report the sounds of boots or shoes clicking against old floors, matching their pace or sometimes rushing towards them from behind. When they spin around to look, the hallways remain completely empty. The footsteps seem intelligent, responding to movement and sometimes stopping when the person stops. Some guests have tested this by changing their walking speed, only to hear the phantom steps adjust accordingly. Temperature anomalies aren't subtle. Visitors walking through the building on a hot summer day suddenly encounter pockets of cold air so cold that their breath becomes visible. These cold spots are not near any windows or doors where drafts might explain them, but rather in the middle of rooms or hallways with no apparent source to a temperature drop. Interesting. So that was a bit of the haunted claims in Madison Seminary. Now it's time for listener-submitted stories. If you have your own spooky story that you want to share on this podcast, please send me an email at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com and I will read your story on the show. This one is from G. Marshall. I had a dog and she passed in 2017. She used to sleep curled up in the crook of my knee, even though she was big dog, a Dalmatian, and heavy as fuck. She would curl into the perfect donut and we would sleep perfectly still. On occasion, if my alarm fails or I sleep through it, I wake up and feel like my sheets are weighed down by her. I have moved houses multiple times and don't even live in the same country, but she still makes sure to annoy me when I'm late for work, and I miss her. That's so sweet. I love it when pet spirits come to visit. They are definitely a comforting thought. Thank you for sharing your story with us, G. Okay, so I was supposed to talk about this on Ohio Mysteries podcast. Shout out to our episode called Castles and Cryptids in Ohio, where I told you about my encounter with the caramel creature and the first sighting of the caramel creature. So I got this in an email from Jen Valdez. Her story does not take place in Ohio. It takes place in Texas. And it says, a very strange occurrence happened last night and I can't wrap my head around it still. So I work in healthcare per usual and did a 16-hour shift yesterday. My husband drives me to and from work when I work these long days to be sure I get home safely. Anyway, he picked me up last night, and as we were headed home, not 5 minutes from my work, something slowly walked about 20 feet in front of us and into the woods surrounding the road. It literally looked as if it just manifested in the middle of the road and slowly made its way to the woods. The insane part is we cannot even begin to describe what it was. It was as though the lower torso and legs of a wolf or coyote, but the height of a deer. So long, phantom, just legs. All right. It was gray and we could see it was a salt and pepper colored, just like the one I seen. And at almost the exact same time, my husband and I said, what the fuck was that? Absolutely bizarre. So what are these legs? Are they shapeshifters, aliens? Are they big birds that had their heads cut off and they're still walking around? Are they flesh pedestrians? I don't know what they are, but they're kind of being seen a little bit more and more. Yeah, it's weird. There's another one from Sharon Norbit. And it says, I witnessed something crossing the road when I was coming home from work around 1 a.m. I could see it ahead of me and it was on all fours, but the two front legs were longer than the two back legs. It looked as though it was walking out by its knuckles. It was wrinkly, white, skinny creature, and I thought it was a dog at first, but by the time I got close to it, it had already crossed the road. But what shocked me the most is that it stood straight up and walked into the woods. Was this an alien? And it still creeps me out when I think about it. So this lady said her location, not in Ohio, not in Texas, but New York. So whatever these things are, they're seen all over the country. So It makes you wonder if it's like a fourth dimension thing and only certain people can see it. It really does. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And Dan from Ohio Mysteries, this shout outs to you, man. If you still want me to come on your podcast and talk about the karma creature, I totally will. You got to email me back though. Or if you don't have a spooky story, but you want to be on my podcast to swap spooky stories and have, some spooky fun time with some spooky fun games, please send me an email at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com and we'll have you on the show. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend that likes all things that are spooky. And please, let's watch together right now the shadow figures I caught at Waverly Hills. Yep, those were shadow people. I can't explain them. The new video should already be out on my YouTube for the Waverly Hills videos that I recorded and put out. I have sent that clip to Waverly Hills Sanatorium and they are very impressed with it. So yeah, it's legit. It's not faked. Those are shadow people caught in Waverly Hills by the famous room 502. And I hope you all are having a wonderful spring. It's almost summer. So yeah, many blessings to you. I love you all, both living and dead, and stay spooky. Under the Moon Paranormal is written, hosted, and produced by me, Melanie Peters. Check us out on YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe, and share with a friend that likes all things that are spooky. Music for this podcast was written for Under the Moon Paranormal by Bradley Yates. This podcast is 100% AI-free and human-made.